Right. And for the people to access their medicine, for the people to, whatever they want to use it for. Because when you look back through history, you've never seen an overdose on marijuana. Marijuana, I'm going to switch to calling it cannabis. Cannabis is not associated with violent tendencies and, people going just absolutely berserk and doing crazy things.
Right.
I don't think it's known for really putting you in that much of an altered state of mind to where you're losing control, per se. But that having been said, is there any other legislation out there that you would direct our listeners to go take a look at and perhaps get on board with?
Yeah, certainly. Again, Dr. Paul has it's called H.R. 1831. That is the basically states' rights for hemp, Industrial Hemp Act. This has broader support. I've talked to the lobbyist for the hemp industry here on a regular basis. I know like 17 agricultural commissioners have sent letters to the Congress saying they should allow hemp to be grown. And so this is another one, 1831. And then on the top of my head, another one that Jared Polis has done, I think it's 1983, 1983, which is basically states' rights for medical marijuana. And there's some others, there's a couple others, but that's probably the most important ones for your audience, depending on whether activism would take them. But we're focusing here in D.C., the major organizations are focusing on the green plant, if you will, and the thrust is, don't use the word legalize in any letters, because we're not here. At least the bills would not legalize marijuana at all. Simply, they would repeal federal prohibition and permit the states to choose their own path. And as I expect many states to stay, as I call it, smokeless. I'm sure many states would stay smokeless for a long time. But if California wanted to treat it like beer and legalize, regulate, and tax it, certainly they could make the tax money off it. And I believe once a few states go that way and people understand the sun comes up anyway, and there's no problems associated with the marijuana use, or for that matter, the sale, then we'll see more states be eager to get that tax money and save money from law enforcement, from prison costs to police officers flying around in helicopters looking for a green plant.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, and I have to, again, once they realize that the sky isn't going to fall, if it's legalized or decriminalized, they might even see, such as Portugal and, is it Sweden? Such as
Portugal leads the world in showing that decrim doesn't increase the drug use. Switzerland has the best treatment program for heroin addiction. I've actually been there several times and seen firsthand the results. I speak French and German, so I've actually talked to police officers there who, though initially opposed to it, later saw the tremendous drop in felony crime. So they're now big supporters of the Swiss program.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a I don't know. It's something to really take a look at, because I know that it's counterintuitive to think that if you legalize something, less people would be doing it, but that's exactly what we've seen with the models who have embraced that.
Yeah, and in fact, as I like to say as I said already a couple times today, and we'll more often today before I go home, that I'm only an expert in two things: how to ride a horse a long ways in a straight line, and police work. So I always refer to the board-certified addiction doctors I've talked to in the past 14 years of activism to say, look, these guys have said that essentially zero Americans who are not using, like, say, crack or meth today are going to start using crack or meth just because you make it legal.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just silly. I mean, Americans aren't that stupid.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I have no desire to do any of those drugs, and I wouldn't if they were legal tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't smoke cigarettes, and they're legal because I didn't get hooked when I was a kid, and I'm not that stupid. If you could make cigarettes, you couldn't pay me $10 a pack to smoke them.
Well, yeah, that's just it, because you're educated on the damages of them.
Exactly. And we have to
we're a little bit smarter than our elected officials would like to give us credit for.
Well, understand also, it's not just the elected officials. I mean, Congressman Rohrabacher, a Republican from California, who signed on to 2306, the repeal bill, he said it 3 years ago that if Congress could take a secret vote, marijuana would be legal today. The congressmen know what to do, but many of them run scared, thinking they're going to lose their job if they repeal federal prohibition of marijuana or any other drug. So what we need to do, you and I and your audience, is to let them know that you will support them even as they vote for the best policy, which would be a repeal of the prohibitions. But it takes, in other words, they need to feel comfortable that they'll get reelected even when they do the right thing.
Right. Yeah, and like I said to Jody James a couple of weeks ago, I think it was last week on our show, that they are not going to get honest with us until we get honest with them first. So, yeah, you definitely need to show them that they would have your support. Yeah, absolutely. Now, when it comes to our youth, and prohibition, I think it's no great big secret that it's easier for children and teens to get illegal drugs than it is alcohol right now. So in legalizing, that would be another step towards protecting our children and not harming them, as Shailene said a couple of weeks ago, not locking them up, but offering them help. So when you're looking at rehabilitation versus incarceration, I have to say that I think any parent would opt for the rehabilitation as a first choice.
Of course. It's also, if it's my kid, they need some treatment. If it's your kid, go to jail. This has been true for 40 years, and it's still true today. I mean, let's see. I'm trying to think I think it was some governor's son was just arrested for simple possession of marijuana. I think it was Missouri or something. And again, the guy's a big-time drug warrior, but that's his kid. This should be a quote-unquote family matter, as opposed to a police matter. Well, yeah, they always want it to be a family matter when it's your kid, but if it's somebody else's kid, they want them to go to jail and have a criminal record. This has been quite true now for 40 years, and not changing anytime soon. Mitch Daniels is the governor of Indiana, who was caught as a dormitory level marijuana dealer with 2 shoe boxes full of marijuana. We're probably talking pound and a half, 2 pounds. They pled him down to simple possession, and he paid a $400 fine. But in Indiana, he still wants your kid caught with that much to go to prison for 4 years. He's a complete hypocrite, but that's very, very common.
Yeah, it's common, but the fact that we tolerate it is unbelievable. I hope people begin to think it's unacceptable.
Well, the good news is as the generations shift, but there's still the reason marijuana is illegal today is because not enough people are ready to treat it like beer, and people need to speak out. And that's off duty. I'm in a coat and tie and my Sunday cowboy boots and my Sunday cowboy hat. But on the weekends, I'm in my T-shirt that says "Cops say legalize pot." Ask me why. My wife, who's a tax CPA, her T-shirt says "Moms say legalize pot." Ask me why. And when she talks to people, when they ask her the question, and she responds, "To protect our children from pedophiles, we need to stop wasting time on Willie Nelson." Everybody agrees, because she is a 60-year-old gray-haired grandmother, and she has instant credibility saying, "This is all about the children. Protect my kids. Don't worry about Willie Nelson."
Right. Yeah, because we subject them to harm on every angle. We're incarcerating them. We're subjecting them to more pedophiles than need be. Yeah, it's baffling, but the fact that we have so many people now coming out and helping us move into the right direction, which I truly believe we'll get there, is great.
Right.
So, what is your foresight on what do you think is going to happen, and how do you think it's going to happen?
Well, certainly we know here in Washington that the pressure has to come from the state levels. We need more states to take positions of treating marijuana like a parking ticket. Connecticut passed it this year. Massachusetts passed it a couple of years ago. California signed the bill last year to make marijuana just like a parking ticket. Kentucky this year, even a fairly conservative state, actually moved it down to mandatory probation versus a possible 1 year in jail for simple possession of marijuana. So we need to have more states put the pressure and just say, marijuana is so insignificant, even for adults, it should be a $100 fine and like a parking ticket. And from there, that'll be good for kids not to have a criminal record for possession. and can stop other avenues of employment. And from there, it'll be just a shorter hop to treat it like beer. But we need to tell our politicians, we need to support those politicians who feel this way.